And every week we have product training on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Mountain. And meat and potatoes are off for the summer. And Elite Forum at 10 a.m. on Saturdays. Go to the portal to click on those links, put all of these in your calendar so that you have them, and they automatically remind you to jump on and be with us during each of those times. Here are our 5-week first givens. So we have two tied in number 9 spot with 5 weeks of 24 appointments, averaging 5 appointments weekly, both Chantravive Blair with Heath Thompson's region and Ruth Erdman. Number in 8th position, Bob Marshall, 29 appointments over the last 5 weeks, averaging 6 a week. Noel Adams in 6th position, 41 appointments over the last 6 weeks, averaging 8 out of Heath Thompson's region. Heath Thompson himself tied with 6 with Noel, 41 appointments over the last 5 weeks, averaging 8 per week. Anu Cabra in 5th position with 44 appointments over the last 5 weeks, averaging 9 out of Tandem Machete's region. Errol Parker with 46 appointments over the last 5 weeks, also averaging 9 appointments a week. Shannon Campbell in 3rd position with 47 appointments, averaging 9 appointments per week. Brad Bishop, number 2, with 58 appointments over the last 5 weeks, averaging 12 appointments per week. And Rick Thomas leading the charge, number 1, with 76 appointments over the last 5 weeks, averaging 15 appointments per week. Here are our PPI scores. And this score, you're given a point per each weekly average first appointment given, and you're also given points per first given based upon your actual target premium of the business that you've written. We've averaged that out by each first appointment given, showing you the value of every first appointment given. And we have 10 people that are being recognized here. Number 10, Woody Sargent at a 0.2. His average points per given is 3,900 with a PPI score of 5. Samantha Sander, number 9, 0.2 in average first given per week with 4,784 in points per first given out of Heath Thompson's region. Rick Thomas with 15.2 average first given with points per first given of 214 points with a score of 4 for his first given score and points per appointment score of 1 with an average with his score of being 5. Matthew Schmidt, number 7, averaging 2.6 first given at an average points per first given of 1881. He's got a score of 1 on first given and a score of 4 of points per first appointments given with a total points of 5. We have Michael Givens, number 6, with 2.8 average first given. 1815 is his points per first given. So he was given a score of 1 of first given score and points per appointment score of 4, also with a score of 5. Anthony Aquilino of 5, number 5 with 3 average first given. 1814 is his average points per first given, and number 1 for his first given score, and number 4 for his points per appointment score, also with a score of 5, and out of Rick Thomas's region. Number 4 with Tanya Zapata, 3.8 is her weekly first given score. 1525 is her average points per first given. She's gotten 1 point for her first given score and 4 for points of first appointment score with a total of 5 out of Michael Givens' region. Ruth Erdman, number 3, with 4.8 appointments weekly average first given. 1234 is her average points per first given. And number 2 is her first given score. Number 3 is her points per appointment score. And number 5 is her PPI score. Number 1, tied with Brad Bishop, is Robin Denny with an average first given of 4 and points per first given, 2,083. Her first given score is a 1, and her points per appointment score is 5, with her total PPI score of 6 out of Ruth Erdman's region. Number 1, Brad Bishop, 11.6 first appointments given. His average points per first given is 834, with his first given score being 4 and his points per appointment score being 2, with his total PPI score being 6. Brad Bishop. Congratulations to all of those and your PPI score. Focus on number of first given and the amount of points that you're averaging per sale, and that will skyrocket you to the top of this chart. Agents producing in the last 2 weeks. We've got a great list here. Errol Parker, Brett Olson, Tana Machete, Anu Cabra, Jason Kessler, Kristen Rocket, Jamie Thompson, Tanya Zapata, Ernest Dorado, Woody Sargent, John Poole, Robin Denny, Ruth Erdman, Kent Crump, Salethiel Allen, Shannon Campbell, and Brad Bishop. And we have Chantravi Blair, Norman Lackey, Noel Adams, Austin Mertz, Heath Thompson, Michelle Dixon, Elizabeth Smithy, Rick Thomas, Smithy, Elizabeth Smithy, Rick Thomas, Anthony Taylor, Anthony
Aquilino,
and Susie
Eunice.
Thank you for your production last 2 weeks, and let's keep that coming. Getting into alignment on the second presentation. There's been several of you that have been asking for this for quite some time, and we are here to accomplish this. Obviously, we know the sale is made on the first presentation, but unless you complete what you started on that first presentation by doing a proper second presentation, that second won't turn to a close and won't stick as the business that you're writing. And before we turn it over to Michael, next week on Afortus TV, so that you can be looking forward to this, is from first meeting to second presentation and increasing show rates. We will have Jason Kessler and Ruth Erdman, amongst many, many others. We are going to have many video clips of doing Afortus the right way that will be shown next week on Afortus TV. You do not want to miss next week's Afortus TV. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and unshare my screen and turn the remainder of our meeting over to Michael Isinko.
Hey, Brett, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, like Brett said, 90% of the work is done on the first appointment. Let me share my screen here. There we go. Should be able to see that in a minute. So 90% of the work is done in the first appointment, but the problem is, or the challenge is, we got to do all the work in the first appointment. So here's an F&A that's filled out. We've got a 50-year-old teacher, 25 years of service, lives in Florida. Multiplier is 1.6. He makes $96,000 a year, about $4,000 every 2 weeks because he gets paid twice a month. So his compensation is $8,000 a month. We need to figure out, in order for him to have him or her to have the same quality of life in retirement, we need to come up with $8,000 a month of income, $96,000 a year. And if we adjust that for inflation of 4%, the F&A default at 2%, I actually like to use 4%. he or she has got to be making about $10,000 a month in retirement to have the same lifestyle in retirement. So his pension is going to, at 42 years of service, and again, we're looking at a 67 age. I always like to default for 67. It's funny, I was talking to my team on Friday. The challenge that we run into with retirement planning is that when everybody starts working or gets out of college and starts working, what's the one thing that everybody's told? You can retire at 65. Well, I don't know why that number has not changed, but retirement isn't 65, it's 67 because to get full Social Security, you got to start taking it at 67. Otherwise, there's restrictions on the amount of Social Security you can take based on the amount of income you make, yada, yada. So that has never changed. And what we should be focused on really isn't the age that we can retire, but how much money we have at retirement. So I always like to start at 67 and then work backwards from there. So this particular person is going to get $5,300 a month of their 8,000 from their pension. That leaves a gap of about 2,000, well, it leaves a gap about $4,600 a month. And so, in order, if Social Security was the only source of income in retirement, they're looking at about a 45 to 50% income gap. But the second source of income, or like he likes to call pillars of income, is Social Security. So I'm assuming, for the purposes of this F&A, that the client's getting about $2,000 a month at 67. Now, if they do a SSA.gov on this between the first and the second visit, I can always adjust that number, but I'm just using a $2,000 number. So this person with Social Security and pension is going to replace about 3,000, and they're going to have an income gap of about 2,600 bucks. So the next thing I'm going to ask them is third income source is other things that they're currently doing. Well, this person has a 403B, $50,000, putting 400 bucks a month in. That for the next 17 years, it's going to grow from $50,000 to $245,000. It's going to generate an income about $612 a month. So if we're focusing on the three main pillars or sources of income for retirement, pension, Social Security, and personal savings and investments, he or she is going to have an income gap of $2,000 a month. So they're going to replace about 80% of their pre-retirement income with income sources. All right. Now, at this point, it's up to the client to figure out what their next steps are. So the first thing we can do is nothing. Okay, this is live on less. That's the first option. $2,000 a month less instead of $10,000 a month. You're living on $8,000 a month. What does that look like as far as retirement goes? If they're okay with that, there's no sense in setting up a second appointment. They don't really need us. The second option that we have is we can retire or they can retire later. So instead of going to 67, they push this to 70. Just change that number to 70. Actually, change both of them to 70. All right. Just by increasing it by 3 years, it goes from 2,000 a month down to $1,600 a month just by increasing. So there's nothing that we need to do to help them if all they want to do is retire later, other than just help them understand what that looks like. They still have a $1,600 a month income gap. So the third option is to invest more wisely, look at different opportunities, look at ways of helping their money work more efficiently for them. That's where we come in. So I'm going to assume that they choose option three, which is invest more wisely or pick some different ways of investing, go back to 67. They have a $2,000 a month income gap. This is the one area that I think we don't do a very good job on our first appointment, and it really hurts us a little bit on or a lot on the second. If somebody has a $2,000 a month income gap, how much of a nest egg or how much does their account value or account size need to be to generate $2,000 a month of income? Well, the easy way of doing this, you can take a calculator if you want. If you don't want to use a calculator, just calculate it in your mind. $2,000 a month times 12 is $24,000 a year. If you take $24,000 a year and times it by 20, it'll tell you how much income you need or how much money they need to have in their investments to generate that $2,000 a month. So 24 times 20 is $480,000. Their retirement account here needs to be $480,000 more than what it currently is right now. So in order to figure out how much they need to start putting away or saving in whatever account they choose, we need to figure out how much they need to put away to generate another $480,000 worth of account value or account size to generate 100% of their income in retirement. So what I like to do before we start talking about taxes or anything else is if you were to put the same amount of money or if you were to use the same vehicle, which is a 403B, how much money would you need to put away to have another $480,000 a month of income? So I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to drop down to the IRA. I'm not going to add it to the 403B yet. I'm just looking at qualified accounts. Put a 0 there. So that starts the process. All right. They need $2,000 a month of income. So I'm going to start with $2,000 and work backwards. All right. So if they were to put $2,000 a month away for the next 17 years at 5%, it's going to be $651,000. Now, the payoff here is 1628. I'm looking at a 5% payout. All right. What pays 5%? Potentially an annuity can pay 5%. So if they had $651,000, $2,000 a month at a 5% payout, it's going to generate 2713, which puts them over. So we don't need 651. We only need 480. So I'm going to drop this to 1500. I'm going to drop this to 1400. I'm going to drop this to 14 or increase this 1450. 1460 and 1470. I'll go 1475. Okay, there you go. So they need to put away $1,475 a month. So they need to increase their 403B contribution to $1,875 a month to have zero income gap right there. All right. A lot of people can't do that, but at least we know what we have to, where we start to get them to 100% income. And I'm just going to leave that there for a minute. What I'm going to tell them at the end of the first appointment is when we get back together on our next visit, there's some ways, because you said you want to invest more wisely, more efficiently, however you want to use. There are some ways that we can accomplish the same goal for a lot less money than the 1875. So I don't want you to worry about the 1875. I just want you to have a picture if you were to currently use if you're going to use what you're currently using, how much do you need to be putting away to have a 0% income gap for retirement? My goal is to make sure you have the same quality of life at the end when you decide you don't want to work anymore. All right. If you choose to take advantage of the fourth income source, which is still working, you're doing that because you want the money, not because you need the money. All right. So again, when we get back together again, we're going to talk about different ways of saving and investing the money so that you can get your money working a lot better for you, a lot more efficiently. You don't need to put as much money away. I just want to give you the kind of the expectation of where we need to land if you're to continue to do what you're currently doing. All right. So that's the end of my first presentation. So at the end and then we talk about the 3 ways of saving money and investing money, the fixed accounts, the stock markets, indexing, all that stuff. So we come back on the second appointment now. The first thing I'm going to do, because usually on the first, I'm not doing Zoom. So on the second, I'm going to set them up on a Zoom. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I don't want all this stuff on the right over here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an X right here where it says client view, and it's going to erase everything that's on my screen. All right. I don't need that. I already know the presentation. I know what's there. It's really for me to help put something together for them. This is what they're going to see. The second thing is after the first summary right here, You should have sent this to them at the end of the first, so they're operating off of the same information that you're operating off of what their retirement's going to look like, so on and so forth. All right. So now we come back on the second visit. I put the X on the F&A script here. Then I come up here and we talk about the four income sources. So last time we talked about a couple things. We talked about right now your income is coming from four sources. I'm sorry, from one source. When you retire, it's going to come from four sources. It's going to come from Social Security, pension, personal savings and investment, and then continue to work. All right. We talked about doing the third option, which was helping or finding ways of investing and saving your money more efficiently. We talked about needing to put $1,475 a month extra into your current 403B to get to 100% income replacement in retirement. And you said that instead of using the stock market or fixed account, that you're very interested in using that indexing strategy. If you remember, we talked about your money goes into a fixed account, so it's not actually in the stock market. But instead of getting a fixed interest rate, you're getting an interest rate that is linked to the stock market. So when the market has a good year, you're going to get a percentage of that interest that the market generates. So the market went up 15%, you may get 12 or 13%. If the market goes up 5%, you may get all 5%. But if the market goes down, you don't lose any money because you're not in the market. You're in a fixed account. And so it gives you an opportunity getting a better interest rate than what you would do if you're in the market without the market volatility. And you said you really liked that strategy. Has anything, now I'm going to stop for a minute with the clients, has anything changed between the first visit and the second and today? Is there anything else you've come up with, anything you've thought about, anything you'd like to discuss? Because I put a couple ideas together for you based on what you told me on the last visit. Okay, so I'm going to assume that nothing's changed. So the first way of helping your money work more efficiently is we want to make sure that we're getting you the best interest rate, or that you're getting the best interest rate on your money, and removing a lot of the volatility, removing a lot of the challenges that a lot of people have in the stock market with it going up and down. And it's all about timing when you get ready to retire. Where's the market going to be? What's it going to do to the income that you're going to get in retirement? So the first way of helping your money work more efficiently is using or utilizing that indexing strategy on part of your money. Now, it's okay to have some money in the stock market because your 403B and that won't offer an indexing strategy. They'll give you can invest in the index, but the index goes up and down. Indexing strategy just allows you to earn a fixed interest rate that's aligned with the market without actually being in the market. So the first way of helping your money work more efficiently is that you can get a better interest rate potentially over time because you're removing a lot of the volatility. All right. The second way of helping your money work more efficiently is the one thing that a lot of people don't think about. And actually, I was kind of surprised that you haven't thought about this before, is that you haven't taken advantage of what the IRS calls these tax advantage programs. So the IRS is basically giving us three ways that your money is going to be taxed in retirement. The first is what they call taxable plans. And at this point, what I'm going to do on the F&A is I'm going to switch over to the tab on the bottom here, which is tax deferred, tax deferred, and tax advantage. And we're going to go through each one of these individually with the client. So basically, tax now means that you're going to put your money into a savings account, CD, money market, and every year, whatever you earn in interest on that money gets taxed at normally your normal, either a capital gains rate, which is 15 or 20%, or it gets taxed at a normal interest rate or a normal tax rate. But it gets taxed every single year. So if your capital gains bracket is 15%, 15% of your gains on that money every year is coming off the top. Now, let me ask you a question. If you're using a taxable account for your long-term investments for retirement, and every year you're losing 15% of your money to taxes, Is that a real efficient way of growing your account for retirement? Oh, absolutely not. All right. So the IRS then said, well, then let's go more efficiently and let's defer the taxes. That way you don't pay the taxes on that 15% every single year, or you don't have to remove 15% every single year. We'll defer the taxes into retirement. And you'll see that on your 403B, your 401k, your IRA, TSP, all that stuff is they're deferring the taxes on that account. And you can have a fixed account that's an IRA, or you can have a fixed account in your 403B. You can use the stock market. And there are some ways that we can actually utilize the indexing strategy, if you like that, in a tax deferred account. And I can talk to you about that if that's something that you're interested in. A lot of times with your 403B, maybe your 401k, you will get a matching contribution from your employer. But the disadvantage is that when you pull the money out, you're going to pay taxes on it just like you're earning it. It's taxed at your normal income rates. You can't touch the money until you're 59 and a half, or you pay a 10% penalty. And once you hit 73, this wonderful thing called RMD, or requirement of distribution, kicks in. You have to start taking money out at 73, or you pay a 25% penalty. All right. The other thing is you got to be careful of is that if you're getting a pension, you're getting Social Security, gets added to that income, and could potentially increase your taxable income for retirement, because all of it gets taxed as ordinary income. So if you're in a 20% or 22% tax bracket, you're paying taxes on all that money at 22, 20. And then if they raise the taxes, or if you're in a place that have state income taxes, you're paying state taxes on top of that. So again, 20 to 30% of your income can potentially go to the IRS in the form of taxes. So I know you're utilizing a 403B to grow your money, but think about this from a standpoint of efficiency. Is this the most efficient way of growing your account and having the most amount of money available for you in retirement? So I'll just leave you with that. You just think about that for a minute. The third option is what the IRS calls tax advantaged. And these accounts, you don't get the deduction going in. So that's a disadvantage. You can't subtract whatever you put into it off of your current taxes. But it does grow tax deferred, and you can access it without having to pay taxes on the money. So if you think about this, if you grow your account to that bigger number, remember we're talking about that 480 or 600,000, you no longer have to pay taxes on that 600,000 if your money's in a tax advantage account. Whereas if it's in a tax deferred account, you're paying taxes on the whole $700,000 as you take the money out. So if you like tax advantage, the IRS gives us three options. The first are municipal bonds. These are tax advantage bonds that you can do through your brokerage account. Some 401ks will offer them, even though it's not a smart way of doing it inside of 401k, because it's kind of like a tax interesting way of handling the taxes. So most people do it outside, but you can go to your broker, you can buy municipal bonds, usually take a lot of money, somewhere between 20 and 30,000, maybe $50,000, and they usually pay somewhere between 2 and 5%. So even though you may be winning the tax battle, you may not be winning the growth or the inflation battle that we talked about on our first visit. Second option most people like to take advantage of is what we call a Roth IRA instead of a regular IRA. A Roth IRA basically says that you can grow that money tax deferred. As long as you follow the IRS guidelines, you can access it and not have to pay taxes on it. So the first thing the IRS is going to look at is how much income you make. If you make too much money, you can't qualify for contributing to a Roth IRA. Second thing is that they have contribution limits. So right now the contribution limit is $7,500 if you're under 50, $8,600 if you're over 50. All right. And you can't touch the money until you're 59 and a half, or you pay 10% plus taxes on the gains on that money if you try to take that money out too soon. So if you're willing to follow the IRS rules, a Roth IRA might work well for you, and we can move the money from a future taxable situation into a future non-taxable situation. The third option that people can take advantage of is we can use under the IRS code 7702, you can use life insurance. Most people look at me and go, life insurance? Life insurance is for when I die. That's traditionally what life insurance is for. But under IRS code 7702, the IRS has specified certain criteria that if you use the right kind of life insurance, it's got to be cash value or what they call permanent life insurance. You can actually use that money on a tax advantage or preferred basis, access and not have to pay taxes on it as long as you're following the IRS rules, and use it as a source of retirement income. And we got three options. We got whole life, which most people are familiar with. Whole life is going to pay somewhere between 1% and 6%. And then you can take the money out usually through either withdrawals or through loans. And we can kind of go into that in more detail if this is a choice that you like to use. You can do variable universal life, which is linked to the stock market. So you have the volatility of the market. You're going to get somewhere between 3 and 7% on your money, but you do have to be concerned with the market volatility. Or you can use an index life. Now, you said you like the indexing strategy, so you link the index strategy to life insurance policy, and you're going to get on the good years somewhere around 12 to 13%, and on the bad years you'll get zero. So you don't have the volatility of the market, but you're getting somewhere between 0 and 12%. So let's say you average 8 or 9%, if you could get 8 or 9% on your money on an average with no market volatility, you have to decide if that might be something that would be of benefit for you. All right. Now, one of the disadvantages of life insurance, obviously, you have to pay the cost of insurance. The advantage is if you die, your family's going to get that death benefit where they wouldn't get that if it was in another retirement account. And then usually you're going to have to wait about 5 to 10 years for you to start seeing some value on your money, because it's usually after about 5 years, you're going to about 80 to 90% value on your account. Again, it's for a long-term play. It's for retirement income. You've got 17 years until retirement. So if you're going to go life insurance, you got to treat it as a retirement account, and you got to be okay with not touching it for the next 17 years. All right. But again, an advantage is if you have that $600,000-$700,000 account and you took 10% out, you're keeping the whole 10%. You're not sharing it with the IRS. You're essentially firing the IRS from your retirement. Now, just so you know, I'd probably tell you which one I like the best for me, but you got to tell me which one makes the most sense to you. I can do all three of these. We can set you up a tax every year account. We can set up a tax deferred account. We can set up a tax advantage account. Thinking about the way to make your money work more efficiently for you, which way do you think would be more efficient? You want to, tax it every year? You want to defer the taxes into the future, or do you want to take advantage of or do the tax advantage where you don't have to pay taxes? Most people at this point will say, I like the tax advantage, but I don't really understand it that much. Okay, perfect. Well, let's assume that you want tax advantage. And we got three options. Most people will either choose between the Roth IRA and the life insurance, because you have a lot more control over that as far as how much money you can put in. You can really set them up more on a monthly contribution, better than municipal bonds. So let's talk about what would happen. And we talked, so now I shoot back over to the FNA again. And I said, okay, so let's take a look. So if you're putting the $1,475 a month into your 403b or IRA to get to that 480, look what happened to your income. You get over here to a 0% gap, but you also jumped your taxes from, I think they were like $1,600 a month before to $2,100. So even though you cleared the gap of $2,000 with that $1,475 a month, you just increased your taxes too. So what would happen if instead of using the IRA, all right, let's use the Roth IRA. Now here's the challenge with the Roth IRA though. You can only put in, you're over 50 or you just turned 50. So you can only put in $8,500 or $8,600 a year. So let's go 8,600 divided by 12. It's about 717 a month. So if you like the idea of using a Roth IRA, you could put 717 a month in and you generate 583 in income here. You're back to the 1691 in taxes because you don't pay taxes on that, but you're still a $1,400 a month income gap. So one of the things, so if you want the Roth IRA, we can do that, but you're limited to your contribution. All right. The other thing the second option you have is you could use the life insurance. All right. Now, let's say you put 1475 a month into life insurance. So remember, I was telling you before, we're averaging somewhere between 6 and 9%, 6 to 8%. Let's say we're getting 7% on your money, and your payout, let's say, is 6%. Well, let's just use the same 5%, but we're getting a 7% growth on your money. All right. For the same 1475, you're generating $2,400 a month. So now you have $400 a month surplus, and you haven't increased your taxes. So what would happen if we drop this down to, let's say, $1,000 a month? Okay, now you're at 1,650. So let's go to $1,100 a month. Okay, $1,200 a month. Okay, so for $1,200 a month, instead of $1,475 a month, we can accomplish the same goal. Now, what I will do at this point is I've already done an illustration, and I've done an illustration. Usually on the illustration, this number right here is going to be probably around $850 a month instead of 12, because the payout's going to be a little bit higher. Let's say it's 7%. All right. So this is normally when I'm doing the illustration with F&G, it's going to show about $850 a month instead of $1,475 a month. So I'm going to say, so let me ask you a question. I know life insurance is kind of a crazy idea to use for retirement, but if you could solve your retirement problem or challenge, have no income gap at $850 a month instead of $1,475 a month, do you think that's a more efficient way of investing or saving your money? Yeah. There are some other advantages, and I kind of talk about some of the advantages of life insurance. And I said, does this look appealing to you? Is this a way that you'd like to go to help well, I can't afford the $850 a month. Fine. So that's our goal. And as you and I work together, and we've got 17 years to make this happen. So the sooner we can get to that $850 a month, the better it's going to be. But let's say we start at $400 a month or $450 a month, and we go from there. We've got a target that we can shoot at over the next 3 to 5 years. And so when, then I go through is, like, when do you think you get your car paid off? Let's take a look at some other things. So we can develop a strategy around that $850. But here's the key though. If I know that number is $850, what am I making my max amount at for the insurance? I'm making the max amount $850 a month. All right. So my $850 a month, if I were to take this, just going to have my calculator, times 12. So I'm making my max target on my life insurance $10,200. Okay, that's going to be the $850 a month. Target's probably going to be somewhere around $400 or $500 a month. Well, guess what? He's not starting with $850 a month, he or she. They're starting with $400, $300 a month. So my starting point's going to be the $300-$400 a month, which they can, but my max, and in order to make this work, you got to put on increasing death benefit because you got to have a target that's higher than what they're currently paying to start. We're getting paid on target, but they have an upper amount now that they can put away. And so now I can build them into a plan where they can start with an amount that they're comfortable with, $400 or $500 a month, and grow it into something else. Maybe we take some of the money from the 403b. Now the whole conversation isn't about life insurance. It's about finding the money. Where can we start looking for and hunting for the money And over the next 4 to 5 years, my expectation is that we'll get you to the 850 a month. Now you're max funding the life insurance. And when you get ready to retire, you're going to have 100% of your income gap covered. And now if you decide you want to go to the fourth way of making money in retirement, which is still working, you're doing it because you want to, not because you have to. All right, that is my second. And I called all my friends in hell. Hell has not frozen over, but I am 15 minutes early. So,
Awesome, awesome. All right. Hey, just a couple of questions. Oh, we have a Thomas Murphy that's got a question for you, Michael.
yeah, hold on. Yeah, who's got questions?
I was wondering, couldn't they at that point after second take the money that they're putting in the 403B and put it into the life index annuity or the life index
Well,
plan?
if you listen to my last comment, that's what I said. I said we're starting looking for ways of getting to the money. Now we can, explore the idea of taking some of the 400, adding it to it. Again, it becomes now, the one thing I didn't say, but I say now, once I build up the life insurance and they like it, because again, it's the only vehicle in this particular case that will solve their concerns. They got to put that $800 a month in. They can't do that in a Roth IRA. Now here's the problem with life insurance. Not everybody qualifies for it. If you're going to utilize life insurance, we've got to get you qualified. And we've used the top rated insurance companies. One of my favorites is F&G, Fidelity and Guarantee. They're probably one of the easiest ones to work with. Everything checks out on your health. We'll probably most likely get you a plan. There's no guarantees. And this is the key right here. If for some reason we can't get you qualified for life insurance, we've got two other options. Number one, these insurance companies that we use allow us to what they call borrow a life, meaning that we put the insurance on somebody else who can qualify. And if that's not an option, then we can always go back to the Roth IRA. Because from a tax standpoint, life insurance and Roth IRAs work exactly the same. The only difference is in how they're structured. A Roth IRA is going to have some more limits on how much you can contribute, when you can access the money, how much income you can make, things like that. You don't have those same restrictions with life insurance. Life insurance restrictions is you got to qualify. Once you qualify, however, you're in. They can't ever change the rules on you. Roth IRA, they can always change the rules. The IRS can raise or lower contribution limits. They can raise or lower income limits. They can do whatever they want. With life insurance, once you're in, you're in. They can't change the rules on you. So I always like, if you like the life insurance option, I like that first because it's the hardest to get. But once you get it, it's probably most likely going to give you the most money the most efficiently. But if you can't get it for some reason, we can either borrow a life or we can use a Roth IRA. I just want to let you know that if life insurance isn't an option for you, we're still going to get you to your retirement goals working together. It's not an all or nothing proposition. So I just want to let them know that if they can't qualify for life insurance, I'm still going to get them a Roth IRA, and we're still going to do business together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But absolutely. Once you felt the F&A properly, now you're looking for ways of finding the money. Once you ascertain that life insurance is the option they want to use. They don't like life insurance. They just want to do a Roth IRA. Great. Set them up on a Roth IRA. They don't want to do a Roth IRA. They want to do a regular IRA. Great. Set them up on a regular IRA. Point is, you want to work with that client to help them solve their retirement issues. It's not life insurance. It's going to be something else. So any other questions? That was a good question, by the way.
Yeah, Michael, in the first, where and how do you find the money?
I just go through here. One of the things I said at the end of the first is, again, we're looking at 1475 a month, which was my first thing. Can you do the 1475 a month right now? Oh, absolutely not. So if I were to put a plan together for you for retirement, how much money could you put away right now to make that happen? And they're going to say like $100 a month or $200 a month. So is $100 or $200 a month really, in your mind, really going to get you to that extra $2,000 a month of income? No. So let's start talking about this. Let's talk about kind of where that money's coming from. So you got $400 a month right here in your 403B. Is that being matched? No. Well, maybe we could take a look at, or would you be open to looking at using some of that $400 a month and make it work more efficiently for you? All right. So you look at, up here, maybe they've got some money going into savings. Maybe they have money in an emergency fund. Maybe they've hit their emergency fund goal. They're putting a couple $100 a month into a emergency fund. Maybe they're investing in savings or other investments that they have. You come down here and you can talk about, do they have other life insurance? What kind of life insurance? We want to find out where all their money is going. All right. So if you come down here on the bottom under Money Finder, a lot of these will be linked to information you put on the F&A. Of these categories right here, do they get a tax refund? Are they funding an emergency fund? Are they trying to get out of debt? Insurance? Are they paying extra on their mortgage? Unmatched 401k? Okay. New money is always the hardest. So if you have a client that says, yeah, I could put $1,000 a month away, first question, because that's a red flag. First question is where are you putting that $1,000 a month right now? Because if they're not putting that $1,000 a month away now, where's it going to come from? It's going to come from another source, getting out of debt, coming from, their wife's or husband's shopping budget, golf budget, travel budget. It's going someplace. So if they're not saving it right now, be very wary about new money, because that's always going to be the hardest for them to stick. If it's money that's already going someplace else, that's easy because all you're doing is redirecting it someplace else. If it's new money, if they say, oh, I can do $500 a month, next question you should ask, well, where's that $500 a month going right now? One of the easiest ones, and one of my favorites, is one Brett always says is, what's the last debt you just got paid off, or what's the next debt that you're going to have paid off? Once that's paid off, what are you going to do with the money? When's your car paid off? When your car is paid off, are you going to buy another car? Or are you going to drive that car for a little bit? Where are you going to put that money? Because again, if you can get them to do $200 to $400 a month now, you need to get to $850. But if in a year or two that car's paid off, and that's another $350 or $400 a month, and they've already committed to putting it away, 2 years from now or 3 years from now on our annual review, we're having a conversation about, okay, your car's paid off in June. Let's get together the first week of June, and we're going to increase what you're putting into your IUL so that money's going into that instead of into something else. So make sure you're using this money finder because it will tell you where that money's coming from. Now, if they really don't have any money, on the very back here, we have 2 different budgets that we can help them use. And this really gets into some serious financial planning with them. Use the one that you really like the most, but help them figure out where their money is going and maybe some ways of cutting back on some. And again, all of this is predicated on the one thing that is required above all else. When you come back up here on the F&A, how important is it on a scale of 1 to 10 that they have 100% of their pre-retirement income covered in retirement? How important is it to them that they have the lifestyle that they want, that they've dreamt about having in retirement? Because this isn't about you and me doing it for them. This is about them having the desire to put retirement as a top priority over everything else. So all of your sources down here are on the bottom. You just need to be really comfortable with how to navigate the F&A to help your clients.
And then in regards to scheduling that second appointment in the first, how do you do that?
So we settled on everything. So what I like to do at this point is get that next meeting or that visit scheduled so we can go into detail on how we're going to solve your retirement gap problem. And what I have found is if we don't do this in the next 12 to 24 hours, maybe 48 at the most, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get busy because I see about 10 to 15 people a week. I can only take on a few new clients every week, but you're going to get busy too. And then it's not going to be a priority and it probably isn't going to happen. So the first thing I like to do is I like to schedule something in the next day or two that we can get back together and we can discuss the options that are available to you. And then you're going to tell me which one makes the most sense. I'm not prejudiced, I'm not tied to any particular outcome other than one thing. Whatever you choose, I want your money to work as hard for you as you're working for it. So we're going to talk about what's available and then decide together, and you're going to pull the trigger on which one you think is going to make the most sense to you. So that's number one. And the second thing is for your retirement planning, who do you talk to? Who do you rely on to help you make these choices? Are you the type of person that says, you know what, Mike, if I see something I like, I'll make the decision. It makes sense to me, I'll do it? Or do you want to consult with your spouse or significant other? Do you have a financial advisor you want to talk to? Do you have an attorney or an accountant that you need? Who do you want to have as part of that next meeting to help make sure that you're getting into the right vehicle for you? I'm going to give you the choices. I'm going to let you pick, but who do you want to have there to help you pick based upon the information that we talk about? So based on that, our morning, we schedule this appointment for afternoons, or mornings or afternoons usually better for you. I like afternoons. Okay, so I have, and usually at the same time, so I have 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, or I have 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon available. Those are really the only 2 times I have available this week. So which of those 2 makes or would work the best for you? I'm really trying to, if they push it out a week, that's not good enough for me. What do we have available for this week? Because I want them to figure out, and I need to know whether I'm working with them or I'm not. If I'm not working with them, I want to know this week. I don't want to wait 2 or 3 weeks. So let's pick a time this week that we can get together. Now, if they're going on vacation or something like that, and we have to push a week, fine. But I'm just holding fast to that 24 to 48 hours.
All right. And then at the beginning of the second appointment, what are the 2 or 3 things that you do to make sure that they are with you from the previous appointment for you to move forward to help close?
Yeah. So perfect. So first thing I do when we get on Zoom, I check the box at the top here to get rid of all this other stuff, because I'm going to show this on Zoom, and I don't like having all that other stuff on there. So the second thing I'm going to do is let's just do a quick review of what we talked about on the first. We talked about you're making $96,000 a year, $8,000 a month, adjusted for inflation. You need about $10,000 a month of income coming in to cover adjusted for inflation to have the same lifestyle you have right now. That is coming from your pension of $5,376, Social Security of $2,000 starting at age 67, and $600 a month coming from your 403b, which you're putting $400 a month away. We also talked that in order for you to get 100% or 100% of your income replaced in retirement, if you're going to use the same vehicle that you're currently using, you need to add another $1,475 a month to get to zero. And then we also talked about how that was going to be a little bit too steep. And I made a commitment to you that we would look at ways of helping you save and invest more efficiently so we can reduce that $1,475 extra down to a number that you're comfortable with. All right. Are there any other things that we talked about on the first or didn't talk about on the first that's come up for you between then and now that you want me to consider or we can talk through that might be important to you? Because at the end of the day, this is your money. This is your retirement. You got to be able to sleep at night. You can't have anything keeping you up at night, worried about this or that. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to make sure that when you get ready to pull the trigger on retirement, that you have enough income. And back, like I said before, income isn't an age, it's a number. So if we can do this at 65 instead of 67, great. But you need $480,000 more of income, $2,000 a month more. We got to figure out what's the best way of getting there. That's what we're going to talk about today. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about or you'd like to talk about that we can cover today or even in the future? And then we just kind of launch into it. Oh, and then the next thing I do, I talk about the 3 ways of saving money. We talked about fixed accounts, market accounts, indexing strategies. You said you liked indexing strategies. Do you remember why you liked indexing strategies? And then based on when they say, I might go into a little bit more detail on indexing. And it says today we're going to talk about the second pillar of efficiency, because that's the first pillar. It's making sure you're saving and investing money at a decent interest rate with minimal market risk. We're going to talk today about the other pillar of efficiency, and that's taxes. Because if you got to pay 20-30% of your money to the government, that's not very efficient, is it? So that's kind of how I launch into the the 3 ways that money gets taxed.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for today and the training. We got a lot out of that. Let's remember we have systems calls today, as well as I will be reaching out to every RM for profitability call. If you can, please reach out to all of your agents in your district, if you're their trainer, DC, RM, and ask them to come join us on Afortus TV, as well as any other classes that are being held throughout the week, including your own sales meetings, master classes, etc. And remember, RMs, I will be reaching out to you today for our profitability call. Look at the report that was sent to you late last night so that you're prepared for that. Run it through chat if you have questions on it of how to understand it better. And then remember this week to utilize what we're talking about in our first and seconds. For those agents, have your RMs post to the training tab their ride-alongs. And for you agents, after you do a first, do your appointment reviews. And on both sides will help with the coaching so that we can ensure that you're winning and that we can see you at the top. I would challenge you to watch those appointment or those ride-alongs. And if you've not, take a look at my first and second presentations. And if you need any coaching, that's what I'm here for. Share your first, share your second, and let's continue to improve until you can become the best and we can see you and all of you at the top. Thank you guys for participating. Thank you for your support, and we will all see you all at the top.
Thank you, Brett. Great, great, great.